Hey there, gang. It's wintertime in Minnesota, and today we are going to talk about one of my favorite homemade wintertime dishes, 3-bean minestrone soup. So I've been making minestrone for many years. I love making homemade soups, homemade chilies, things like that. So we're going to do a real quick, simple, down and dirty one here. And this is going to be a meatless creation, but you could certainly use chicken, beef, lamb, anything you'd like if you want to. So to get started, got my mise en place here. So we got everything ready to go so we can do this quickly. So I was watching a documentary on some channel, I don't know, a year or two ago, and they were doing this Blue Zone documentary, and they were talking to this family of siblings over in Sicily. And the average age of all these siblings that were still alive was over 100 years old. I can't remember, I think it was like 108 years old. And they, obviously looked into what their diet was, what their exercise pattern. They found that this family every day ate this homemade bean soup. Bean and vegetables, homemade stock, and that's it. And they ate it every day religiously. And so, got to be something to that, right? So anyway, we're going to do that today. Again, this is a real simple soup, and we're going to do it quickly. And I made my own stock. I made a chicken stock here today. I like to make my own stocks. Let me give you a little cooking tip here. I do a lot of cooking, and so I'm always chopping vegetables. So you get a look at that there. And so I'm, cleaning onions, carrots, tomatoes, celery all the time. And again, to avoid wasting food, instead of throwing those scraps away as I trim these vegetables, I just throw them in a plastic bag, toss them in my freezer. And when I get about like this, and I'm going to cook a chicken or a turkey or something like that for a family meal, at that point I will save the carcass and the bones, and I'll throw them out of water with my veggie scraps, and I'll make my own stocks. That's how we made our chicken stock for today. I also, and if I'm going to make something and I maybe don't have any meat bones, then I'll just make a vegetable stock. And if I'm going to use it, then I use it. If not, I throw it in the freezer. And like I said, if I get hankering to make minestrone or a vegetarian chili or something like that, I got my stock ready to go, nice and healthy, and I haven't wasted any food, right? All right, so let's get her going. Start with the EVOO. We're just going to throw it into our nice sized stock pot here. And turn her on. And let that get hot for just a second. Now the nice thing about this soup, of course, total flexibility, right? So for vegetables today, I'm using onions, carrots, garlic, mushrooms, diced Yukon potatoes, and canned diced tomatoes. I'm also going to throw in a little bit of chopped mustard greens at the end for color and flavor. And normally I use kale, but just decided I'm going to use mustard greens today, all right? So we're going to get our oil going here, and we're going to add our onions and our carrots, get them sweating. I like to cut the carrots into little coins. And the other thing I do with carrots, when I'm roasting carrots or making soup with them, I don't peel them. I just wash them really good. Love having the skin on there, extra texture, extra fiber, extra flavor, less waste. All right, so we're gonna go medium-high heat. We're gonna go about 5 minutes just to get these vegetables a little tender, but we're not gonna let them brown, so we have to watch it carefully. And then we'll add the rest of our stuff. All right, so my carrots and onions are getting nice and tender. Now I'm going to add my garlic and my mushrooms and just get them in there. Normally I would use about 8 ounces of quartered baby bella mushrooms, but I've actually got some nice wild chanterelles that I picked this summer and dried. So I reconstituted them. I'm going to use them for this batch. Again, like I said earlier, the great thing about recipes like this is you can do whatever you want. But this is what I'm going to use. I've got a couple of large cloves of garlic that I diced up. And we want to add our garlic after our main vegetables have sauteed, because we really only want to saute that garlic for about a minute. We want to get that aromatic out of it, and saute it up a little bit, but we don't want to brown it. We don't want to make it bitter. So stir that around. Now we're going to add most of the rest of our ingredients. I've also got diced Yukon Gold potatoes, but I'm going to add my stock first because if I throw them in now, they'll just stick to the bottom of the pan. So I've got 1.5 quarts of homemade chicken stock. So we're just going to dump that right in. Too bad we lost that nice sizzle sound, huh? I just love that sound. All right, and then I've got 1 can of good quality diced tomatoes in juice. Throw the juice and everything in there. Now I can go ahead and add my potatoes. Okay. Turn that heat up. Stir that around a little bit. And then I've got about 1.5 teaspoons of dried thyme, heaping teaspoon of oregano. I've got about 1 teaspoon of basil, got 1 teaspoon of sea salt, just a little bit of a dash of dried chili flakes. I just like that little extra kick. So we'll go ahead and put our seasoning in. Some fresh ground pepper. Give that a stir. Okay, and then for my beans, I've got a mixture of pinto beans, kidney beans, and garbanzo beans. So again, any kind of legume is going to work just fine. That's what I picked for this batch. So I've got a nice bowl here, but I started with about 1/3 of a cup, 1/3 to 1/2 cup each of these beans. Soaked them overnight, and then I cooked them to about al dente here, just a little bit before we started the soup. So they're done, but they're got a little bit of crunch to them still. And I'm just going to add them now, and then we'll bring the soup up to a boil. And we'll let these guys cook a little more. That'll add some nice body and flavor to the soup. And if you want, if you're doing like a vegetarian soup or you didn't have enough stock, save some of the water that you pour off from your beans. You can always use that, kind of like saving the pasta water when you're doing a spaghetti sauce. So go ahead and dump those guys in. Okay, so we've got to let this come to a boil, then we're going to cook it about 20 minutes. Make sure all our vegetables are done all the way through. At that point, we'll check our flavor, we'll check our seasoning, and we'll add our kale or mustard greens right at the end. We don't want to overcook that and get kind of that, that yucky taste when you overcook greens. We want to add it right at the end so it's nice and bright, beautiful, and adds just a nice kind of crunch and flavor to the soup. So we'll be back in about 20 minutes to see what she looks like. Okay, gang, we're back. It's been about 20 minutes. We've been at a soft boil. I've checked the seasoning. It's really good. A little bit of bite. I like that. Just going to add my mustard greens here now. Drop those guys in there. Give it a little stir. We are good to go. Let's take a look at that. Doesn't that look great? All right, so there you have it. Our simple 3-bean minestrone. This is one of the healthiest things you can do for yourself here, folks. You got no fat in there. You've got legumes, you've got vegetables, you've got protein, you've got fiber, you've got it all. I can make 4 or 5 meals out of this. I can freeze it if I want, but right now I am going to help myself to a great big bowl. I'm going to serve this up with a great big thick slice of my homemade sourdough bread. And I'm going to have myself one heck of a wintertime meal. Hope you enjoy it, and healthy cooking.